went down today. I had to take notes on it.
Yeah, it was a lot of rumors, a lot of what ifs, and it's like it's crazy. It's like somebody gets released. Oh well, I better think if the Broncos want him. It's crazy.
That's right. It is crazy. And speaking of crazy, it's us. It's Wednesday night. It's MHI. It's an MHI takeover every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain. I'm Luke Patterson, one half of MHI, and joined with me as always. You know him, you love him, Thomas Hall. And Tom and I just talking on the way in from the green room. What a busy day in the NFL when you start to look at it. I know I must have spent 30 minutes on Adam Schefter's X account, just trying to figure out what's going on. You've got NFL superstars demanding trades. You've got NFL teams signing players that have been released by other teams. And all before this happens on March 12th, when free agency officially kicks off. 50 days from the NFL draft, so we have a lot to get to. Tom, how we doing, man? It's what, March 5th, Wednesday, March 5th. We're marching along here in the Mile High City, trying to figure out how we improve these damn Broncos.
It's going well. Almost spring, spring is almost here, so I'm excited. But the thing of it is that I wish that the Broncos would do is some of these players that are getting released now ahead of free agency that are just getting cut. I don't think those would count against compensatory picks. So if there's someone out there that got cut that the Broncos want, they should jump on it now and get them signed. Some of these teams are smart for doing it.
Yeah, it's been a busy day around the NFL and a busy day for your Denver Broncos. Obviously, big story of the evening and topic of the show. We need to talk about Zach Allen, and we need to talk about this report coming out of the Denver Gazette that Big Cat wants $25 million per year. He feels he is due an extension. We're going to debate whether or not number 99 deserves it and what that number should look like. But also looked like today I was following some Broncos news from our guy Mike Kliss. It looks like the Denver Broncos officially tendered 5 players under the exclusive rights free agency designation, looking at cornerback Jaquan McMillan, safety Devon Key, defensive lineman Jordan Jackson. You also have Lucas Kroll and Tillman. DeAndre Tillman is in there as well. What's your reaction to that, Tom? Because I got to be honest, I get a little confused when it comes to the free agency period, and free agency starts on March 12th, but you see players getting signed today. Talk to me about the exclusive rights free agency designation. What does it mean for the Broncos?
Well, I mean, basically it's if they don't tender the earned rights free agents, they just don't want them anymore. I mean, because it's almost league minimum type deals. They can't say no unless they want to just leave football. So it's basically you do it unless you absolutely do not want that player in camp, which, I mean, to me, there's a couple players on there that may be camp casualties. You got Devon Key, you got Lucas Kroll may not be around. I wasn't very impressed with him, but yeah, it's just those deals that you do if you even want them to be on, in mini camp and training camp. So it's a simple procedure right there. It's not like restricted free agents where other teams can come in and swoop them. They're yours, and unless you just don't like them for whatever reason.
Yeah, it comes with it, right? You said it best. It's the minimum salary that pretty much sums it up for their designation based on length of service. I don't know. I mean, each one of these guys is a little different, right? And we all have different values on them. As I start to look, just like you, Devon Key's at the bottom, Lucas Kroll, underwhelming. I'm looking for another Saints tight end to come in, i.e., a Jawan Johnson, something like no to Taysom Hill. Absolutely not. Jaquan McMillan, it's undrafted out of East Carolina in 2022, spent his rookie year on the Broncos squad, and then all of a sudden, this guy's bursting onto the scene with Sean Payton under Vance Joseph's defense. And sooner or later, the Broncos are going to need to figure out what they want to do with Jaquan McMillan, because I doubt he's going to want to just be considered as a secondary or a supplemental piece, if you will. He is definitely a contributing member of the Broncos. That's not to say that Jaquan McMillan hasn't had his struggles, such as life as an NFL defensive back, a nickel back, a cornerback. I mean, I can pick apart Riley Moss as well and raise him up at the same time. I definitely value Jaquan McMillan the most of the 5 players that were officially tendered today. What say you, Tom?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he had some really good games. I mean, he's looking promising. He's still, you got to remember, he's still kind of developing too. It's only he's only got a couple years in the league of starting. So you got to understand that, he's still working on his game. So I look for him to be even better this upcoming year. I think this is a steal of a deal, getting him for the amount that they're paying with the earned rights free agent. And then next is DeAndre Tillman. I think it's another guy that they got a lot of production out of for very little money. He got 5 sacks last season in a very limited role, and I think he's another one that's developing. You might see come into his own here next year as well. So those two, I think, that's a value right there, getting them for the price that they're getting them with the earned right.
I like how you describe the process with the vet minimum. I like how Mike wrote about it too. Mike List, Denver's own 9 News. He says, for 5 Broncos players, getting tendered as an exclusive rights free agent is not a big step, but it is a step. And that's exactly it. This is business in the league. Everybody's at different points in their contracts. And speaking of steps, get stepping, Dave. What's up, big dog? How you doing? David McGrath coming in. $5 over on YouTube. Good evening, Broncos country. Let's go, Bo. Dave, I will ask you, Tom, and the rest of Broncos country about the elephant in the room. And it's an elephant that was nasty in 2024, Tom. An elephant that put up career bests, sack total, combo tackles, individual tackles, tackles for losses, quarterback hits. You know him, you love him. His name is Zach Allen. It took Zach a little while to get going here in the Mile High City, but boy, did he burst onto the scene last year. Per Chris Thomason from the Denver Gazette, Broncos defensive lineman Zach Allen could be seeking up to $25 million per year. Tom, when you saw that report on X, when you saw it on social media, what was your initial response to the figures for Zach Allen?
I thought I think it's a good deal for him, the way he played last year. I mean, the reason why I say it's not just because of how he played last year. He's still young enough. He's still in his prime. He's still got a few pretty solid years left in him of what we saw in 2024. So I think that amount of money is good. It would put him in, I think, if I remember correctly, put him in the top 3 for interior defensive linemen per year on an average. Top 5 for defensive linemen, or top 10 maybe if you include the defensive ends, the edge rushers and whatnot. But it's still a good deal for him. I think I still think that isn't too much money. I still think that they should do it. In fact, if I heard that number and I was George Payton, I would have been like, okay, here's your paper, sign that deal.
Yeah, man. My initial response was, yeah, get it done. This was a man that was the soul and spirit of that defensive line in conjunction with one Jonathan Franklin Myers, right? I mean, you look at those two, and I know they're listed both at DE, right, for defensive end. They can play all over that line of scrimmage, and they do. And they move inside. You see stunts, you see twists. I love it because that's what Sean Payton likes out of his defensive linemen. He commands and expects a lot. They not only have to be athletic, but they have to be strong. And I think we saw a different level of cardio with Zach Allen this year. You saw a different level of leverage that was being played with this year. And he was arguably one of the most effective defensive linemen in all of the NFL. It's time to get paid like one, Tom. You're exactly right. Zach still under his current contract. He's signed through 2025. He is due to collect a $12.74 million base salary with a $19.795 salary cap hit. You could read about this. Zach wrote an article at milehighhuddle.com. And Zach kind of pointed out, look, Chris Jones of the Chiefs is making an average of $31.75 million. Christian Wilkins of the Raiders, 27.5. So, yeah, 25 mil sounds like a good ballpark, or at least a starting point for Zach Allen. The biggest part of my reaction to this, and Broncos country's all over it in the chat, and I want to hear all about it. Tom, what does it mean for Nick Bonito if Zach Allen is coming in here commanding some figures? Jonathan Cooper got signed to a team-friendly deal, right?
Yeah.
What would a contract extension mean for Zach Allen? Does it have any implications at all for Nick Bonito? Do you have to pick one or the other, even though they're different positions on the same line of scrimmage?
Yeah, I don't think so. Only because you don't have to do it. I mean, it's not going to, the way you can structure it, it may not have to hit the cap this year. So they're going to have plenty of cap space after, the dead cap is gone from Russell Wilson. So I don't think it precludes them from doing both of those deals. And I don't think Benito is going to be looking for that much money right now. If they wait on Benito and he has another good year, he may be too much money for the Broncos. So I think they should do it now. They should do both Zach Allen, Nick Benito, get it done. And you're going to get somewhere, 19, probably 20 mil a year for Benito. But those two both produced. They're both still in their, hitting their prime, basically. They still got good years left. So it's not like they're kind of holding on to an aging vet that was doing well. They're just kind of starting to come into their own. So it would be worth doing. You got a rookie contract on a quarterback. Get those folks signed so you can start winning now.
Makes sense to me, especially when you're talking about a unit, a defensive unit that all contributed, right? This is a embarrassment of riches situation we're talking about with Zach Allen and Nick Benito, because they're part of the same unit that reset the franchise sack record for the last 4 weeks of the season. Okay. So it's a good problem to have. And collectively, you want to try to keep these guys together. Guys, it's Wednesday night. He is Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. We are talking Denver Broncos football, NFL news, reacting to all of it, including Zach Allen reportedly seeking a $25 million per year extension. Man, I'm old enough to remember when Zach Allen came on to replace Draymond Jones, and he was looked at as an underdog. Remember that? Yep. Well, guys, Speaking of underdog, this basketball season, when your favorite star scores a bucket, we're going to give you an alley-oop opportunity to win money from watching sports with Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, you can with Underdog.
To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats like points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into 1,000 with just your hoops knowledge.
Boom. Guys, download the Underdog app and sign up now using our promo code MHuddle to unlock a special offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with our promo code MHuddle. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon your very first deposit.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Boom. David Youngkin weighing in, $4.99 Super over on YouTube. Zach Allen was a huge part of our winning this last season, and when he was out, he was missed. David bringing up a really good point, something you touched on earlier, Tom. The availability of Zach Allen has been pretty damn impressive the past two seasons with the Denver Broncos. In 2023, started 17 games, played 17 games. 2024, he only missed one, 16 out of 16 there. And when he missed, the opposition definitely took advantage of it. David's exactly right. What was the difference this year for Zach Allen? If you had to put your finger on it, I don't know if he felt more motivated. I don't know if it was a Vance Joseph thing. I don't know if it was who's around him thing with a Nick Benito, a Jonathan Franklin Myers. What do you expect in 2025 after the season that he had in 2024? Because we both agree he deserves to get paid, but what kind of expectations come with that fat contract of $25 million a year if the Broncos can get there?
Yeah, I think you see more of the same, same of what you saw last year, but I would like to see him in less of the rotation, less plays, because he's going to wear himself out.
You're paying him $25 million a year, and you're trying to go on a pitch count with Big Cat?
Want him. Well, no, not a pitch count, but he played so many snaps. You and I were both sitting here. When is he going to wear himself out? And it just didn't happen. But over time that can wear. So I would like to see more of a rotation. I think having Jonathan Franklin Myers helped a lot. I think Jonathan Cooper and I think Nick Benito kind of stepping up helped him a little bit too, but I think he just was a man on a mission. And, it would be good to get another rotational piece that he won't have such a step down, like you saw when he wasn't in, so that he can get a little bit more rest and be ready to go playoff time and really fill out that full contract that he's probably going to get.
You know what's weird? For all the love we have for Zach Allen and all the hell he raised for offenses last season, I don't see a lot of number 99 jerseys in the Mile High City. I don't see a lot of them at the stadium. I don't see a lot of them at training camp. I don't know why that is. He's easy to like. He seems like a good dude. I don't know if there's a defensive lineman in the world that can weigh near 300 pounds and have the cardio that this man has. We got to do better there, Broncos country. We gotta get some number 99. It's a cool jersey, right?
Yeah, it's a good number.
Yeah, it's a damn good number. It's a historic number.
Yeah, it's a cool number. Yeah.
He wears it after his hero, right? JJ Watt. And I don't know, man. We got to change it. I know we got hockey fans in the stream, and I pissed Hockey Guy off a couple of weeks ago. I know 99 is a big deal for hockey. I don't know why, but I know it's like a defenseman jersey. That's about all I know.
Well, is it that Gretzky's jersey, number 99? Wayne Gretzky wore 99.
Who never heard of her. Now here's the thing with Gretzky. I obviously know who Gretzky is, right? It was with LA, right? Did he spend some time with the Detroit Red Wings at all, or no?
I don't know where he went. He went to the Kings, LA Kings, and then he went somewhere else after. I can't remember. So the Oilers, then the Kings, and then I think he spent somewhere. I think it was New Jersey, maybe.
Is that it?
I don't remember.
Okay, I know he's got a beautiful, like, gorgeous supermodel daughter. I know that much. Phil McLaughlin coming in over on Facebook with the stars. Good evening, Luke, Thomas, and Scott. You got to sign both of these guys, Zach Allen and Nick Bonito. The cap hit's not going to hit till next year, and we should be sitting around 70 to 80 next year. Buckham, MHH, Phil, I like what you're doing there. Phil's putting his Sean Payton front office hat on. And, Phil, I like that. And I like what you're saying too, Tom. And I like what I'm hearing from Broncos country in the chat. It sounds like this is a doable deal. $25 million a year. Is it going to be the most? No. Is it going to be up there? Yes. The Broncos, it seems to me, Tom, ever since the Walton Penner ownership group have come aboard, ever since Sean Payton was traded for and signed to a big fat contract, it seems at least, and I could be wrong, that the Broncos want to get ahead of the contract. They don't want to be behind. They don't want to use the franchise tag every year like it seemed we did for a while. What's your impression of how much Sean Payton and the Walton Penner ownership group value the punctuality, if you will, of getting these contracts done sooner rather than later?
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. If they keep waiting, the price is going to keep going up. So if they like a guy, let's just look at Bonito, for example. You know that next year the salary cap's going to go up. They're going to be big contracts for edge guys. So if they get it done now, it's a lower price, so that when that cap expands, it gives them that much more room to work with. Whereas they wait, you're at the mercy of whatever the going rate is then, right? And so exactly. I think it's wise to try and get it done if you like the player and you think that they've got potential to continue for 2-3 more years. You definitely should get it done as soon as you can.
He'll be 28 next year, Tom. I mean, he's still got some tread on the tires there. He's been available, right? I mean, I'm looking at his stats, and spent 4 seasons in Arizona, obviously with Vance Joseph, and he's heading into year 3 here in Denver. So, I mean, if you're Zach Allen, you definitely don't want to take a hometown discount, I don't think. But no. I'm sure he likes playing in Denver. I'm sure he's comfortable playing in Vance Joseph's scheme. David, circling back around, man, thank you so much for the generous $4.99 YouTube, guys. These super chats, these Facebook stars, a little bit truly goes a long way. It's very humbling. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning in and supporting, so appreciate it. Denver might do the same as they did last season and sign a few players to extensions. So David's saying not so fast. It doesn't need to be the fork in the road, Luke. You don't have to pick just one guy or the other. Maybe you could get a Nick Bonito and a Zach Allen deal done. Tom, I'm not going to hold you to it or anything like that, but if you had to guess, would you say that Nick Bonito's people and the Broncos have at least had preliminary conversations?
Yes, I think they're going to try and work out a deal. They're not going to sit around. I think they like Bonito. He's done everything that they've asked him to do. when they drafted him, and he's continuing to get better. So I think he's in their long-term plan. So I think they're at least trying to feel out what he's asking for. Now, if he's asking for way too much, then maybe they don't do the deal. But if it's a reasonable price in the in the range what he should get, I think they're going to work it out.
Matthew Morgan coming over on YouTube, one of the biggest stories of the day. And Matthew weighing in, hey, fellas, DK Metcalf, well, he'd look good in orange and blue. Don't want to overspend, though. Yeah, Seattle, man, a huge news and big day for the Seattle Seahawks as they officially release wide receiver Tyler Lockett, right? We all kind of thought that was coming. Tom, you were on it really early, looking at the numbers and figuring out the cap and what they're going to eventually save. And there are already some reports out there that the Raiders could potentially be interested in going after Tyler Lockett. You have the Pete Carroll reunion with Tyler Lockett, but before the release or during the release, almost the same time, same day, the Seahawks announced and the rumor was broken that DK Metcalf has requested a trade out of Seattle. And man, that's got all kinds of teams picking up the phone. I'm sure I'm hearing rumblings already that the Los Angeles Chargers are reportedly interested. I reached out to some folks before the show started, getting some feelers out there in the water, right? No per source on this show or anything like that. But what was your reaction to DK Metcalf officially requesting a trade? Could you see him in orange and blue?
It was interesting that he asked for it, and I guess he wants to go someplace more pass friendly. I don't know, or he's a little disgruntled. Who knows what the deal is? Yes, I can see him in orange and blue. I mean, he's going to be your best receiver on all the receivers that are out there on the team right now. He's better than Cortland Sutton. I'm not a Seahawks fan. I'm not a DK Metcalf fan, but he's just a better player than anybody else on the team when it comes to the wide receivers. So, yeah, I mean, you don't want to give up a first rounder for him, but if you can get him for a decent deal, why not? I mean, he's going to upgrade your team. You might end up working a trade and send Cortland Sutton in as part of that trade.
Ooh, man, is that doing Cortland dirty or what? Like, man,
it is.
Hey, Court, you had career numbers. You stuck around your whole career and we finally got you a quarterback. See you later into Seattle and enter DK. Man, that's interesting. And this isn't the league of hurt feelings or we all feel good. Business happens and the heartbreaking news happens. And that's what's happening for what? Jackson Smith in Jigba. Wide receiver for the Seahawks, a young, promising young guy. He's taken to Twitter being like, dude, what happened to my wide receiver room? All my friends are out here. Tyler Lockett just got released. DK Metcalf's asking for a trade. It's interesting, Tom, and I think it's worth picking up the phone. I'm a lot like you. I can't you know what? You said you don't mind the Seahawks. You don't like them.
No, I don't like them at all.
I really dislike them. I mean, it's not Raider bad, but it's almost there.
Yeah.
There's a level of forgiveness that I'll never be able to give to them for what happened in Super Bowl 48. There's nothing I like about Seattle. Sorry. I don't know what that type of deal would command for DK Metcalf. What does the capital look like in a trade? Top of my head is you start to see O linemen being dealt, and we'll go through it a little bit later. Obviously, he's a higher valued position in terms of capital when trading. First thing that comes to mind, Tom, 3rd round pick, 4th round pick for DK Metcalf. Does that get the conversation going? I don't want to go 2nd round for an aging wide receiver who always misses time, who's a little bit moody. But I definitely would say, hey, 3rd, 4th round pick. How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, if you could get him for a 3rd, they should do it. I mean, I know he's got a cap hit that you got to consider. So if you're taking all that money on, that's why they're probably not going to command a 1st or maybe even a 2nd rounder, because that's a big amount of money that the next team is going to be taking on and is going to be clearing their cap. So if it is a 3rd rounder, you definitely should be interested. Now they may just say no. They may be like, no, we want more than that. And then you say, okay, sorry, we'll keep rolling with what we got and see if we can find someone in free agency.
Yeah, part of me wonders, right? Like Adam Schefter was kind of connecting the dots between Tyler Lockett maybe having interest from the Raiders with Pete Carroll over there. I mean, which receiver would Pete value more? Which one would be cheaper? Obviously, when you're picking up a free agent, you're not giving up capital from the team to go get them. So that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. But again, a lot like Zach Allen, DK Metcalf's going to be turning 28 years old, Tom. I know he's been in the league for a little bit of a spell, but surely there's tread left on those tires. Played in 15 games last season, started 12 of them. I'm looking at 66 receptions for just under 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, one of the lowest, actually the lowest amount of touchdowns in his NFL career. Remember when everybody was making fun of the Broncos and Geno Smith, everybody, Geno Smith, how'd that work out? Because it's a total rebuild up there in Seattle right now as the Seahawks are jettisoning their wide receivers pretty much, man. It's out. And speaking of releases, let's go through it real quick today as we talk about wideouts and other positions in need for your Broncos. The Jacksonville Jaguars, are expected to release Christian Kirk. Big surprise there. That's a cap move. Saints running back Jamal Williams has been released, and Jets wide receiver Davante Adams is also on the free market. Talk to me about those 3 names, Tom. I don't have a lot of interest in Christian Kirk. I guess I would kick the tires a little bit on a Jamal Williams, although George Payton reminded us just a week ago that Javonte Williams, you never know. Maybe Javonte circles back around. Davante, I'm a sucker for Davante. I'll be honest. I know it was a disaster last year with the Jets and even the Raiders. For me, man, a free agent deal, a 1 to 2 year deal to see what a Davante Adams could come to Denver and look like. And years ago, I heard all kinds of rumblings that Davante Adams was actually going to try to come to Denver with Aaron Rodgers, so to speak, right? The what if scenarios. Davante Adams, man, that's it for me out of those 3 names. Christian Kirk, Jamal Williams, Davante Adams. You bet I'd call Davante Adams' agent and at least have him work out.
Well, I mean, I would even figure out what Christian Kirk's wanting. I think there should be some interest in Christian Kirk as well. I mean, Davante Adams to me has I don't know. He seems to have maybe a problem written on him. I don't know if he's super happy, then everything's fine. But do you want to bring that into your locker room? And maybe it won't matter. This locker room maybe is perfectly fine, and if they're winning, then everything's okay. But I don't know. It just seems a little bit of a risk with the culture they're building. But I would definitely check out Christian Kirk. I know he's not he's not going to be your number 1 guy, but it's something that you need to fill out that room a little better. I'm not happy with Troy Franklin. I don't, he's going to be one that's got to make a major step. You got, the rest of the group is not really promising to me. You've got a couple guys that you really like, and you got to see what's happening with the rest. There's no reason why you can't add someone else to that room like a Christian Kirk.
Yeah, he's a big diva. You're right. That's a nice way of saying he's a dramatic diva. And I saw Receiver on Netflix, and I saw the way the Raiders thing ended. And it left me with a bad taste in my mouth, too. I'm not saying I'm a Davante Adams fan, but trying to figure out how this team improves a little bit without breaking the bank. Davante Adams, I mean, the film is out there. The stories are out there. If we're talking about it, NFL teams know about it too. And this isn't a situation where I think you need to overpay for a Davante Adams. And I agree with you, Tom, in the aspect that I think more teams would probably be willing to look at a Christian Kirk as opposed to a Davante Adams, considering where they're both at in their careers. Yeah. I think there's a 5-year difference roughly between them. Christian Kirk's 5 years younger, obviously, than Davante Adams, or 5 seasons lesser in the NFL. And that's a lot when we're talking about tread on the tires and how do you improve things. It's interesting when you look at the trade market as well. The Chiefs are going to be sending Joe Thuney over to the Bears for a 2026 4th-round pick. And, man, more news continues to trickle out of those damn Cincinnati Bengals, Tom. What are they doing over there? Do you guys want to lose Joe Burrow? Do you want to run your quarterback out of town? Because that's kind of what you're doing. All right. When I see Alex Kappa got released, Tom, I was all over it. That was a guy that I would have kicked the tires on immediately for the Denver Broncos. But I asked Cecil about it last week. You know it. The Broncos are happy with their starting 5. So that wasn't going to happen. Alex Kappa did sign with the Las Vegas Raiders today. He was released by the Bengals just days ago. So that kind of sucks. But talking about Zach Allen, would I rather have a Zach Allen go up against an Alex Kappa? You're damn right, because I know Zach Allen's going to win that battle. So we'll take it there. What else came out of Cincinnati today? Well, Sam Hubbard retired. I didn't see this one coming, Tom. Sam Hubbard retired. That is truly the Cincinnati Bengal effect.
Well, I think he was going to be released anyway. So he's like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm just going to hang him up. So yeah, it's a strange thing, but the Broncos should be picking up the phone if there's any interest in any of those players, because the Bengals seem to be wanting to do some strange things. So
they just want to pay. They want to endlessly pay 2 wide receivers forever and ever. Who does that remind you of, Broncos country? How did that work out? Right? Like it doesn't. You got to pick one guy, and of course, I'm talking about Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. And Tom, as you know, Tim Patrick is set to be available in free agency. I know Broncos country's gonna ask about it, and the answer's no. It's just sometimes the toothpaste doesn't go back in the tube, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You look at Sam Hubbard and his career, right? And I know he was a Cincinnati guy, Sean Payton guy. A lot of people don't remember. He started with the Saints, right? And cut his teeth there. So I don't know, man. It's frustrating to me because they franchise tag T. Higgins for a second straight year, saying that they're committed to him, but they're still not committed to him because they franchise tag him. And then Jamar Chase, yeah, we're going to make you the highest paid wide receiver ever, and it's still not happening. So that's why I continue to fester you and annoy you and bother Broncos country every Wednesday night with my pie in the sky Jamar Chase dream. And this is what bad ownership gets you, all right? And the Bengals fans don't deserve it. They don't deserve it at all. This is a fan base that's gone through some hell. And good Lord, if the ownership would just act right. Hate to say this, Tom, I really do, but the Raiders did the right thing today. And by the Raiders doing the right thing, of course, they locked up Mad Max Crosby to a 3-year, $106.5 million extension. That's $91.5 million guaranteed. It makes Max Crosby the highest paid non-quarterback ever in NFL history. Tom, what's your reaction? The Raiders, they got one thing right. They paid Max Crosby.
Well, he's their best player, so, I mean, they should reward him. But it just goes to my point from earlier. If you're the Broncos and you're looking at him getting that huge deal and you're going, okay, Benito, when should we get this guy signed? We don't want to see him have a monster year next year and then go out and get one of those big contracts like that. So, I mean, it's resetting the market, obviously. So the Broncos really need to consider what they got to do with their edge rusher there. So, but yeah, I mean, the Raiders locking him up was the right thing to do. He's a heck of a player, and he's their best player on their team. So give him the money.
Watch your mouth, Max Crosby, when Bo Nix is coming for you this year. He ain't a rookie anymore. And man, they gave us some good TV last year. That's the one thing I like to get after Max Crosby, because he's a damn good player, right? But he's wearing the wrong colors. Yeah. And I will never forgive him for that. But yeah, listen, I mean, Max Crosby, Bo, they don't know what you're saying here in Denver, right? And then you see Bo Nix going after him in Las Vegas and his teammates, Crazy Eyes and everything else. So it's a fun part of the story. You also look at other extensions that happened today, and I know Broncos country's heart broke just a little bit, but we all knew it was coming. The Eagles were able to come to a deal to extend linebacker Zach Bond 3 years, $51 million. That's $34 million guaranteed. Everybody's looking for the next Zach Bond because he was such an impact player, not only this season, but in the playoffs and specifically against one of the best quarterbacks of all time in the Super Bowl. Man, Zach Bond, that one makes sense. Just like the Eagles also locked up Saquon Barkley to a 2-year, $41.2 million deal. That's $36 million guaranteed, becoming Saquon Barkley becomes the first running back to officially hit the $20 million per year contract. Tom, I bet that one surprised you. I know it surprised me. $20 million for a running back because of who it was. Maybe it didn't surprise you, but that's where we're at in 2025. One running back, only one, is worth $20 million per year. His name is Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, well, it still ends up being a pretty team-friendly deal. It's not a very long contract, so they're not locked in for very long. Even if he gets hurt, it's still kind of manageable from a length perspective. So it's not terrible that they did that deal, but I mean, he beat Terrell Davis for the most yards, including playoffs. It finally went down, so I mean, that was a great season. They rewarded him for it.
We don't want to talk about that, Tom. We don't want to talk about that here on this show. No, you're right, man. I mean, what an incredible player. The catalyst. I mean, that defense, Man, I'm my good buddy Alan's a Georgia dog, man, and I could talk defense with him with the Philadelphia Eagles all day. But when you look at Saquon Barkley, he was arguably the catalyst. Camden weighing in $2 over on YouTube. Could the Broncos bring back Justin Simmons, Tom?
No, they could, but they're not going to. I don't see it. That's kind of the past. They wanted to change the culture. They wanted to purge a lot of that losing mentality. Not that Justin Simmons a loser. I'm just saying that he was there during that losing time. There's only a couple players left from that. There's going to be one less with Justin Strnad probably hitting the road. So I just don't see the reunion happening, especially at his age. What for? They need to have a younger team that kind of grows with Bo Nix. So I just don't see it happening.
No, and at this point in Justin's career, you got to figure he wants to go to a contender too. And I know he thought the Atlanta Falcons were going to be it, but we all knew Kirk Cousins wasn't it, right? So I think Buffalo's a good spot for Justin Simmons, if I'm going to be honest, and I think Broncos country should root for that. Why? Because Josh Allen's our boy still. When he's not playing the Broncos, Josh is usually Broncos country's boy. The Bills are thinking they're going to get rid of DeMar Hamlin, I think, if they haven't done so already. So I think that automatically brings Justin Simmons into the conversation. He'd also be able to mentor their young guy, Cole Bishop. I don't know, man. Sometimes you just got to move on. And I hear Broncos country. It's hard when you find a real good guy who's also a damn good player, was a team captain, and led the Broncos to some memorable moments. Speaking of former Broncos, I don't know if you saw this one, Tom, and contract extension, Packers kicker Brandon McManus. That's right, Brandon McManus. You may remember, former Broncos team captain, NFLPA delegate, Super Bowl 50 champion. Well, he signed a deal in Green Bay, 3 years, $15.3 million, $5 million bonus. I didn't see this one coming, Tom. They got their guy on the same day that their old kicker retired. What's his name?
Mason Crosby.
Mason Crosby out of CU, University of Colorado, right? So kind of ironic. What was your reaction? I didn't think Brandon McManus would still be kicking here in 2025, but he's locked up 3 years with Green Bay at least.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't think he was much longer for his career. You know, the way he was kicking in Denver, I just thought, well, he's not going to last much longer, but he turned it around and here he is. He got another contract and he's going to be sticking around. So it was an interesting signing with the connection to Denver, but he obviously got his leg under control and starts hitting field goals again.
Yeah, and he's lucky that he was able to get out of Jacksonville and still have a career, because it feels like, I don't know why this is, maybe it's just me, Tom, but it feels like recycled Broncos go to the Jacksonville Jaguars all the time, and then that's where their career goes to die. So you don't really hear a lot of them after the fact. And I guess it's good to see that B-Mac made it out. I've got no hate for B-Mac. I think the whole thing was really weird when his time ended with Denver. And what I mean by that is when the head coach, Vic Fangio, and the kicker have like the biggest beef on the team, it's a bad look for the team and the franchise. So I'll always remember Brandon McManus and his contributions to the Super Bowl 50 team, what he did for the city of Denver as a kicker. He's up there in history, right? Obviously, we think about Jason Elam and we celebrate him very, very highly here in this city. And your barefooted guy, right? What, Rick Carlos, right?
Rich Carlos.
Yeah, it's a tradition. So Brandon McManus, happy to see him get the bag. Also, former Denver Bronco and team captain Bradley Chubb agreed to a pay cut so that he can remain with the Miami Dolphins. Tom, what is your reaction to Bradley Chubb taking a pay cut, man? Because I got to tell you, it seems like Chubb gets all these dollars and doesn't have to do too much.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that was his only way to stick around on that team. I mean, I liked Chubb. He had a lot of potential. He just couldn't stay healthy, couldn't stick around and, be on the field. So, I think that trade was good for the Broncos to get rid of Bradley Chubb for what they got. It helped get
Sean Payton.
Yeah. So, I mean, they got what they needed from a player who had a lot of potential, but just never really put it together on the field, because of his health and whatnot.
Yeah, let's say what's up to all of our friends doing their Facebook support and stars over there on social media, like Eric Flynn, Phil McLaughlin, Michael Ronquillo. Our guys and our gals show up for us on all these platforms where we stream live, including Facebook, including X, Twitch, wherever you get these podcasts. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate all of the support. I saw a comment in here I wanted to get to. The Raiders still suck. I absolutely love it. Anytime, that's a good way to get your comment read if it's going to be making fun of the Raiders. Matthew Morgan, Adams is a no for me. If we do sign him, though, I'll be a fan. Yeah, you're looking for some sort of improvement, if any, with the wide receiver position. You've got some notable wide receiver free agents that are, the names are updating daily, if you will, especially today when you look at the release of a Tyler Lockett. I know the Jags didn't officially release Christian Kirk, but they're going to. Devontae Adams, it's starting to happen. Stephon Diggs, we've mentioned that name a lot on this show. I don't know if Stephon wants to test the market. It sounds like it, at least the NFL rumor mill. You want to talk about some baggage, a lot like Devontae Adams. Well, there's some there. Keenan Allen, that name, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper. We've talked about that quite a bit. Talk to me about Stephon Diggs, Tom. What do you think Stephon Diggs could bring to a Bo Nix, Sean Payton offense, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, you get him for the right price, he might give you something. But again, it's kind of like Devontae Adams. You know, you got to bring the baggage along with him. And whether you want to bring that into your locker room, I don't know. I mean, he's a talented player. Don't get me wrong. If you can get him for the right price, you know, he's got a lot of experience. He's gonna help that offense, but you got to weigh everything that you've built with whether or not you can keep him happy, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, I see a lot of the same guy on this list, different receivers, but a lot of the same guy, and a lot of these aging vets. Still, social media, I'm seeing some reports. Broncos are still the heavy favorites for a lot of betting sites and sports books, if you will, to land the disgruntled Jets wide receiver Wilson, right? I think he's still wanting out of New York. Again, I'd be happy with these new additions. I just don't want to give up a lot for it. And the Broncos, you saw them reap some of the fruits of their labor, if you will, this last season with previous draft selections. Who am I talking about? Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, right? These are guys talking about. Tom, you're always talking and reminding me it is so important to get these guys on these rookie contracts and get the most out of them before you not only have to break the bank, but before it breaks your salary cap and before you're restricted and before all these other heavy consequences come with the fat deal. Which is one of the reasons why, as the NFL draft approaches and the Broncos continue to look for their joker, for me, man, and I know you have some analytics pieces up at milehighhuddle.com. Ashton Genty looks better and better each day.
Yes.
You've broken it down in print. You've broken it down on this show, on these airwaves, which positions have the highest probability of not only being an impact player, but having some short-term and long-term success. Running back is it. And as the days go on, as the combine is officially over, pro days are coming up, NFL free agency's coming up, you're going to see Ashton Genty work out. I don't know when Boise State's pro day is just yet, but all 32 teams are going to be there, and the Denver Broncos will be there as well. I do not think, after having Cecil Lammey on this show last week, Tom, I do not think Ashton Genty is going to be there at 20. The Broncos, if that's their guy, they have to go up and get him. And I know there's a promo going on right now. Cecil on the Denver airwaves here. If you're running around the radio, you can hear him. Cecil thinks the Joker's Ashton Genty because he can catch as well. He thinks that is who Sean Payton is alluding to. Man, I think that's kind of the indication. I also see tight end. It's tight end or running back in round one. That's it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be there either. If he is at 20, that's going to be ridiculous. I mean, I think if Genty starts to slip into the high teens, someone's going to trade up for him. So he's a lot of talent, and I know that running backs they don't last as long as other players in the NFL, but most teams are thinking 3 to 4 years. If you can get 3 to 4 years out of them, and then around, you got what you wanted. You know, you got him on a rookie contract, and and if he's one of those Hall of Famer types, then you keep him. You give him another deal, but I would go for it and not look back. but I just don't think he's going to be there. But there are other good options at running back in the draft this year. So I wouldn't worry about it too much if you don't get him, because there's a couple others that are probably going to be available, maybe even in the second round, that you're going to find some success with as well.
Yeah, you got to make your hay in the premium rounds 1 through 3, and even beyond for the league. Look, it's a copycat NFL. We know that, and everybody wants to know who the next Saquon Barkley is. That next running back that's going to be able to take their team over the top and make a playoff push or even a championship run. And I was a little hesitant of Saquon coming out of Penn State. Was even more hesitant when the Eagles signed him due to injury history. Well. That man knows how to take care of his body. He knows how to protect himself, and he has had good fortune because he was rewarded today with another fat 2-year contract from the Eagles after his historic Super Bowl run. Look at Derrick Henry, man. I mean, he still had an amazing season with the Baltimore Ravens last year in that rushing attack. You look at some of the top backs in the league, and those are it. Those are my two. It's Saquon and Derrick Henry, and you've got the Josh Jacobs of the world, the Jonathan Taylors. Those two are pretty much on the same playing field for me. Alvin Kamara's not what he used to be. Bijan Robinson is kind of a gadget back, in my opinion. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know if he'll ever be available ever again. It just seems like he has bad luck. I don't know. I'm not going to call it genetics because look at that family. They're freaks. They're like Greek chiseled gods, right? Aaron Jones, you see a lot of Broncos country playing with that name. What does Thomas Hall have to say about Aaron Jones potentially coming to the Denver Broncos? Would he interest you? Is it just kind of kicking the can down the road? What do you make of Aaron Jones after his brief stint with the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, he's not for me. In fact, I have very little interest in free agent running backs. Very little, even though, everybody's like, oh, Saquon and King Henry, they had a great year. Well, these are Hall of Fame caliber running backs that they tend to last longer in the league. Not your average running back or a really good running back does the same thing. So get younger at that position, draft somebody. Even if you have to draft one in the second round, you still want to go out there and get a running back in the draft. Don't go out and get a free agent unless it's a young guy who you think is kind of an up and comer who hasn't been used a lot but has that potential. Just don't. Aaron Jones, I think, is a 30 or 31-year-old running back. I mean, that's the end of his career is coming up. You don't pay those type of players.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. He's going to be 31, and I see it. What about Nick Chubb? Again, injury history, and how much are you going to pay, Matt? Right. How much do you want to pay for Nick Chubb? Because here's the thing, Tom, you're exactly right, and it was hard for me not to want to interrupt you right there when you're like, man, I don't want to overpay for an aging back. There's only two. You know why you don't want to pay for an aging back? Because you're still burned from Melvin freaking Gordon. That's what kind of hole you get in if you're the Denver Broncos and you think that signing a free agent running back is going to be the problem to all the answer to all your woes and all your problems. Not at all. The signing of Melvin Gordon set this football team back at least a season and a half with its running game. Don't get me started on Melvin Gordon. I can't stand him as a person or as a player, and I don't care if his agent wants to email me anymore. I just don't give a crap. Melvin Gordon and paying for that was one of the biggest mistakes that the Broncos front office, I think it was John Elway, if memory serves, ever made. You don't want to overpay for that position. You always want to get younger, and you could still get some of these guys that are serviceable free agents for lesser deals. Like a Willis McGahee, man. He didn't come in here and break the bank, but I'm pretty sure, was he a 1,000-yard rusher off the top of my head? I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah, I think he was 1,000 yards. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, you don't have to overpay. What if you want to go get, I don't know, Raheem Mostert's still kind of injured, right? What does that look like? James Cook is wanting the bag in Buffalo. Are they willing to move on for him? I don't know, man. But I'm a lot like you, Tom. I don't want to overpay at the running back position. I used to not want to draft the running back position with a premium pick. Yet here I am in 2025 proving that it's okay to change your mind. I know somewhere Nick Kendall's pulling his hair out right now because he never would have believed me 3-4 years ago when we started this show on Saturday nights that I would be looking at a running back in round one. I was so adamantly against it, just like he was so adamantly against the first round linebacker. But now things are changing a little bit, right? We're addressing different needs and looking at where the team is at. And Genty, man, I'm all in on Genty. I would
Yeah,
be so thrilled. It doesn't mean I'm going to poo-poo another draft pick because the quarterback's figured out.
yeah,
So I'm not going to boo anybody that's drafted in the first round by the Broncos. But Tom, you brought this up last year. We talk about it all the time. Sean Payton's draft history suggests, at least in round one, he wants to move up. He doesn't move down all that often. He's a guy that knows what he wants, and he's able to get a really good temperature of the room
yeah,
and figuring out what the rest of the league is thinking. He plays a silly little mind games on the Kay Adams show during Super Bowl week. He's going to continue these mind games, and it's draft season. That's what we do. We're in the final segment of MHI where you can catch Tom and I every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain. If you'd like to reach out at Tom, please do so over on X. That's at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. We like to get it loose in the last segment. We want to talk about anything
getting
and
loose.
everything. Sports related, could be movie related, entertainment related. Talk to me. It is the NFL offseason. I had one thing on my notepad here I wanted to ask you about because the times have changed, right? I just got done talking about there used to be a time I didn't want to draft a first round running back. Well, I'm all in on Ashton Genty. Let's go get him. The times have changed. ESPN officially canceled Around the Horn, Tom,
Man,
after a 23-year run. I'll be honest, there's not a lot of ESPN I watch these days with streaming services and just depending on who's coming and going with personalities. What's your reaction to ESPN canceling Around the Horn? Are you sad? Are you bummed? Could you see it coming? Any favorite moments from Around the Horn? What did that show mean to you?
yeah, I watched it when I was younger, but I haven't watched it in years. I really don't watch ESPN any longer unless it's a football game. So I kind of just don't watch it. But early on it was fun, and I mean I just it's fun to hear all those guys kind of joke around with each other and whatnot. But it's been years since I've watched it.
Yeah, same thing, man. I'll be honest, it's hard for me to go back and recall names specifically, right? Like I know Blackstone was one of them. I know what Lebitard got his start there, really, if I memory serves. But the one I liked a lot better than Around the Horn, I think, was the show that came on right before that. It was PTI. Pardon the interruption, with Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser. Is that right? I mean, I liked that one because those two would get after it, and it had a weird feel to it too. Because Tony's office slash desk slash carnival that he lived in was always goofy and always had something weird. But then you look at Around the Horn, and I can remember Woody Page, who hates me, by the way. I've been told has me blocked over on X. Woody Page, I don't know, man. I love you, Woody, but you can't stand me. Woody used to always have that dry erase board in the back on Around the Horn, and he would always have funny little puns or riddles or stuff like that. And it's just kind of going back in the time machine, man, because things have changed. Media has changed so much. I mean, back in the day, Tom, maybe we're doing this on radio. Radio's kind of a dying art these days, something that I love, I'm grateful for, I'm appreciative of. It's why I'm podcasting, to be honest with you. But it's just kind of odd, man, and kind of ties a big red bow on the times when you figure out that some of our favorite shows and personalities have moved on.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it was on so long, because so many of these sports shows have changed over time and stuff. It was surprising that show lasted as long as it did, which is interesting to me. So
look at our guy Todd. Shocker. The media in Denver doesn't like Luke. Yeah, I do have some friends out there, but no, man, I rub some people the wrong way, and that's all right. They'll be okay. I'm okay. I'm not losing sleep over it, but respect, man. Respect for Woody Page and all the work that he did. I don't know. Is he still doing stuff with the Colorado Springs Gazette or something? I don't know. I'm blocked. I don't know, Todd. No, man, it's funny. This is the kind of business that you're in. And I know Tom and I sometimes go back and forth with people on social media, but it's fun. It's this is entertainment, right? Sports. And that's why we do this, to try to get away from the craziness and the reality of the world, because everybody is so divided anyway. If I can help them be a little more divided in their sports lives, sign me up. And I don't know, man. Pardon the interruption. Around the Horn, Sports Center. For me, it's the people. It's not so much the show, but it's the people, and you get to learn about different personalities. I have different commentators. I know we've talked on this show who we like Kevin Harlan's one that I really, really like listening to, Mike Tirico. We've got guys and gals that we prefer, that we don't prefer. Speaking of that, a huge congratulations and a tip of the cap to Jimmy Johnson, right? Who just announced his retirement from Fox. Who do you think's going to replace Jimmy? Tom, I
don't
mean,
know, but
that's kind of the next thing, right?
yeah,
Because everybody's eyeing it. I know Michael Vick's been in the cooker for a little while over there at
yeah.
Fox. Man, that's a tough coach and personality to replace on that set.
I actually just wish they'd all retire. I'm so tired of what they got going on there at Fox Sports. Just all of them can retire, as far as I'm concerned. It's all just a bunch of laughing at each other's jokes, and you don't really learn a whole lot from my perspective on that show. So get some new blood in there. But yeah, I don't know who they're gonna get. If it's Michael Vick, I'm not gonna be that impressed. So I don't know.
No, well, Strahan's a slappy, right? Howie's been doing it forever and ever. And speaking of forever, Terry, you can't mention the word forever without Terry Bradshaw. Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes it gets a little stale and you do need a new look, but man, it's just a sign of the times where I used to come home from school, Tom, and I could remember the time slots. Like, okay, 3:30, Stuart Scott's going to be on the Sports Center to give me an update on what's going on. And then after that, it's going to be NFL Live with Teddy Bruschi and Adam Schefter and everybody. And then after that, I could go down the lineup, right? And I've gone away from that, streaming services and everything else like that. So kind of interesting. The Cowboys have been restructuring some deals as well. Dak Prescott and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb restructured some contract issues, freeing up about $56.6 million in cap space for those damn Dallas Cowboys. Maybe they get in on the trade market. I'll be honest, the first team I thought of with DK Metcalf was the Dallas Cowboys. Not because it makes sense for the football team, but because it doesn't make sense at all. And that's what Jerry Jones likes to do. I could totally see Jerry being like, I'm the smartest guy in the room. I just saved all this money against the cap with CD. So let's go get another receiver. And then Dallas is going to their first NFC championship game since the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, Jerry Jones, is in the Hall of Fame because he wrote on the coattails of Jimmy Johnson, who we just talked about. I mean, ever since Jimmy Johnson left, I know Barry Switzer came in and won another Super Bowl, but that was back also on what Jimmy Johnson put together. But ever since then, that team's not been good. I mean, it's just not gotten over the hump. They've made it to the playoffs a few times, but never could do anything. It's all defeated Jerry Jones, and he just makes terrible decisions. He doesn't evaluate well, and he's been putting together teams that are not contenders. So, more of the same as far as I'm concerned. I don't like the Cowboys, so might as well just keep rolling with Jerry there, and hopefully he keeps screwing it up.
No, that would be Phil. We appreciate you so much, man. Appreciate the stars. We're having some issues with Facebook tonight, but I definitely see you. Would love to get Campbell. Him and Allen would be awesome. Are we talking about Calais? My guy Calais? I mean, man, those teeth are getting long on that rabbit. And I love Calais, man. And got to work with some of his family for a little bit in my life. So I've got a soft spot for Calais Campbell. You know what? Calais is welcome anytime he damn well pleases. If he wants to show up in September, I'm good with it.
To me, it's like the Alfred Williams. Alfred Williams should have been a Bronco from day one, just like Campbell should have been a Bronco from day one, and he's never been. At least Alfred Williams made it here. Made it here for a couple of years.
Big Al wasn't, though, because the Bengals did him dirty, as you're alluding to, right? And I can remember Big Al when Cecil first moved in across the street. He had a big party. I went over. I'm hanging out with Big Al, and one of my favorite Big Al moments, he took 15 minutes out of that entire party to not talk to me, not talk to my wife, but to talk to my then 5-year-old daughter. And that's just the kind of thing, man. I judge people on how they treat kids. That says a lot to me, man. And Big Al's one of the good ones. Shout out to Big Al. It's the league. Let it rip. One of my favorite quotes from Big Al. But real quick on the way out, Tom, I'm looking over on X, and depending on which sports book you like to gamble with, apparently the Las Vegas Raiders are the favorites to land superstar wide receiver Jamar Chase if Cincinnati trades him. Chase is only 25 years old, a 4-time Pro Bowler and 2-time All-Pro. So, Thomas Hall, I ask you, have I been so crazy and so wrong to be kicking this since the Cincinnati Bengals game 2-3 months ago? I mean, anything is possible. And the Bengals screw things up, folks. They screw things up all the time. Look what they just did, releasing Alex Kappa, speaking of the Raiders, who signed by the Las Vegas Raiders today. Max Crosby, big fat 3-year contract extension. Things are happening. I don't know if they're going to go after like Tyler Lockett, who was released today by Seattle, like Adam Schefter suggested, but stay tuned, Broncos country, because if the Raiders are making those calls, you don't think Sean Payton is already checked in? You don't think Sean's poking around that? We might have a very different show next Wednesday, man, because free agency is going to be kicked off by then. Right? Looking at my calendar here. I mean, it starts next Wednesday, Tom. How about that?
Officially.
Broncos country. We are going to be rocking with you for the official start of free agency next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain. We're going to rock and roll, man. What a fun show. I appreciate Broncos country. We were rocking and rolling through all of the free agency rumblings, the trade requests. You see some former Broncos get some love in terms of their contract extension today. Brandon McManus with the Packers. Not good news for Bradley Chubb. Had to take a pay cut to stay with the Dolphins. But still, man, this is the offseason, Tom, and we march on.
Absolutely. And the only problem, though, is officially kicks off next Wednesday, which it would be great because we'd have all the breaking news. But unfortunately, the pre-period, the legal tampering period happens, and everything's, they get a bunch of stuff done in those first 2 days unofficially. So we get to officially announce the signings, and it's going to be a busy week. So we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm excited about it, but I really just hate that pre-period. It should start when they say it's going to start.
I know it. All these deals are already like ready to be pushed through officially, including Deebo Samuel, right? Going to Washington, some of these things. Well, they officially happen on the 12th, and we will be here to react to it next Wednesday. Guys, head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Check out Tom's analytics articles talking about which position gives the Broncos the best chance of landing an impact and a long-term starter. Read it over at milehighhuddle.com. You can also check out Tom's work on social media at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Also, stay tuned for a very special announcement on this show. I will be out Wednesday, March 19th, but something tells me Tom's got something up his sleeve, and you might just want to tune in and see who will be co-hosting with Thomas Hall. My loss is officially your gain. So Broncos country, stay tuned into the offseason. This is the way.
This is the way.